They told her she was a failure, a single mother, broke, jobless, and drowning in despair. She sat in a cold flat, her baby asleep beside her, staring at a manuscript no one wanted. 12 publishers had already slammed the door in her face. 12 times she was told her dream was worthless. 12 times the world said no. But she kept writing, she kept believing, because deep down, she knew something the world didn't, that the boy in the cupboard under the stairs was about to change everything. This is not just the story of magic. This is the story of rejection, of humiliation, of poverty so crushing it nearly broke her. And yet, from the ashes of failure, she built a billion-dollar world. Joanne Rowling was born in Yate, England, with nothing extraordinary to mark her future. She wasn't the top of her class. She wasn't destined for fame. What she did have was imagination. Wild, restless, unstoppable imagination. As a child, she filled notebooks with stories, creating characters that lived only in her mind. But life has a way of testing dreamers. Her mother's long illness cast a shadow over her youth, and when her mother passed away, Rowling was devastated. That grief would later bleed into her writing, shaping the darkness and depth of the world she would one day create. Adulthood did not bring relief. A failed marriage left her alone with her infant daughter. She had no job, no money, and no safety net. She lived in a tiny flat in Edinburgh, surviving on government assistance. She described herself as being as poor as it is possible to be in Britain without being homeless. Depression whispered that she was worthless, that she'd failed not only herself, but her child. Yet even in the depths of despair, she clung to one thing: her story. In cafes, with her daughter asleep in a stroller, Rowling wrote. She wrote about a boy who didn't know who he was, a boy who lived in a cupboard under the stairs, a boy who discovered he was destined for something greater. She wrote about magic, about friendship, about courage in the face of fear. She wrote not because the world demanded it, but because her soul demanded it. Writing was her lifeline, her rebellion against despair. When the manuscript was finished, she sent it to publishers, and the rejections came, one after another, 12 in total. Each letter was a door slammed shut. Each rejection was a reminder of her poverty, her insignificance, her invisibility. But she refused to stop. She believed in her story when no one else did. She believed in Harry Potter. Finally, a small publisher, Bloomsbury, agreed to take a chance. But even then, the odds seemed stacked against her. The first print run was only 500 copies, and the publisher advised her to get a day job because children's books rarely made money. But Rowling didn't care. She had broken through the wall of rejection. Her story was alive. What happened next was beyond imagination. Word spread. Children devoured the book. Parents read it aloud. Teachers recommended it. Harry Potter became more than a story. It became a movement. Sequels followed, each one bigger than the last. The book sold not in thousands, but in millions. Then came the films, the merchandise, the theme parks. Rowling's world became a billion-dollar empire. But the money was never the point. The point was the journey. The point was the rejection, the poverty, the despair, and the refusal to surrender. Rowling's story is not about magic wands or spells. It is about resilience. It is about a woman who was told she had failed and who answered by building a world that changed culture forever. From rejection to a billion-dollar world, J.K. Rowling proved that failure is not the end. It is the beginning. The world had no idea what was coming. What began as a modest print run of 500 copies soon ignited into a wildfire. Children who had never finished a book before devoured Harry Potter in days. Parents read it aloud at bedtime. Teachers slipped it into lesson plans. The story of a boy wizard leapt from the pages and into the bloodstream of culture. The sequels followed, each one bigger, bolder, and more unstoppable than the last. Midnight release parties filled bookstores with thousands of fans dressed in robes and scarves, chanting spells as if they were real. Newspapers called it Pottermania. The books sold not in thousands, not in millions, but in hundreds of millions. And then came the films. Cinematic juggernauts that shattered box office records and turned Rowling's creation into a global empire. But behind the spectacle, behind the billion-dollar franchise, was still the woman who had once been told she was a failure. She never forgot the rejections. She never forgot the poverty. She never forgot the nights when despair whispered that she was nothing. And that memory became her compass. Rowling became the world's first billionaire author. Her name was etched into history, her fortune rivaling that of entire corporations. But she did not hoard her wealth. She gave generously to charities, to causes that fought poverty, to organizations that supported single parents like she once had been. She understood that money was not the measure of her success. Impact was. And yet, even at the height of her triumph, criticism came. Some questioned her choices, her words, her legacy. Fame brought scrutiny, and scrutiny brought backlash. But Rowling had already faced the harshest critics of all. The publishers who told her she was worthless. The voices in her own mind that told her she was finished. Compared to that, the noise of the world was nothing. She had already won the only battle that mattered. The battle against surrender. Her story is not about spells or castles or dragons. It is about resilience. It is about a woman who took rejection and turned it into fuel. It is about a mother who, with nothing but a pen and a dream, built a billion-dollar world. Think about that. 12 rejections, 12 doors slammed shut, 12 reminders that she was invisible. And yet, she refused to stop. She refused to let the world define her. She refused to let failure be the final word. And that is the lesson. Failure is not the end. Rejection is not the end. Poverty is not the end. They are the beginning. They are the forge. They are the fire that shapes legends. J.K. Rowling's story is proof that your lowest point can become the foundation of your highest triumph. That the world's no means nothing if you refuse to stop saying yes to yourself. That the scars you carry can become the crown you wear. From rejection to a billion-dollar world, she showed us that imagination is stronger than circumstance, that persistence is stronger than despair, and that belief Belief in your story, belief in your dream, belief in yourself can change everything. So the question is not whether you will face rejection. You will. The question is not whether you will fail. You will. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you let it break you, or will you let it build you? Rowling answered that question with her life. She turned rejection into revolution. She turned despair into destiny. She turned failure into fire. And now, it is your turn.